Welcome to the last video in this 4-part series. In this one, I'm going to teach you about this, the exposure meter. I'm going to teach you what it is, how to read it, and how to balance all those settings that we've learned a while back. By the way, if you haven't seen any of those videos, I'll go ahead and link the last one up there and the rest of them down in the description below. Now, are you curious about this exposure meter? Because me so curious. What's up? My name is Sean Misa, and welcome to my channel where I teach you the basics of photography and videography. So if this is what you're looking for, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe with the notification bell turned on so you can be updated when I upload new videos. For the last video in this series, we're going to go over this helpful tool, the exposure meter. And depending on what camera you're using, it can be read as a -2 all the way up to a +2, or as little hash marks with a big fat 0 right in the middle. Ideally, when you take a photo, you'll want this to read at about 0 or right in the middle of the hash marks. That way you'll know that your shadows aren't too dark and your highlights aren't too bright. So do you remember all those settings that we learned and played with a few videos back? Again, if you haven't, down below. On a full manual mode, each of the settings that you adjust, they also control the amount of light coming in, so therefore affecting how dark or how bright the image is. So when you choose what you'll want to prioritize, you'll have to adjust the other settings to compensate for that exposure, therefore balancing it out. Alright, let's go try this out. If our goal for this photo was to get a really creamy background, then we'll want to prioritize the aperture and go as wide as we can, which in my case is going to be an f1.4. Because it's so bright now and I don't want a noisy photo, I'll set my ISO at 800, and since I'm hand holding the camera, I'll set it at 1/100 since I don't want any camera shakes in my photo. I want it to be nice and steady. Let's say we want more of the keys in focus. So we'll need to go with a smaller aperture, something like 5.6. Now it's a lot darker, but because I'm still hand holding it, I don't want to adjust my shutter speed, so I'm going to actually leave it at 1/100. Lastly, I'll adjust the ISO, and because it's so dark, I'll crank up my ISO to 12,800 so it still reaches that ideal 0 on the exposure meter. For the last example, let's go outside and take one more shot of those beautiful light streaks that I love so much. So now, we'll need to prioritize the shutter speed since what we're trying to do is capture the motion. Because we're going to have a slow shutter speed, we're going to mount the camera on a tripod. Let's increase the shutter speed to 5 seconds. And for this, I'll want the street to be the main focus with a slight blur further back. So I'll set the aperture at f5.6. And lastly, the ISO at 125. So my photo can be just a little bit brighter, since for this, I'll want a photo that's slightly on the brighter side. You can see that indicated with the +1. By the way, remember my pro tip from a few videos back?
Pro tip: even when mounted on a tripod, the slight pressure of you pressing the shutter button can create a little bit of unwanted motion in your photo. One way to get around it is to set up a 2-second timer.
Yeah, that's the one. So let's set that timer so it doesn't shake the camera when I press the button. Ooh, that photo looks so good. I love taking these types of photos. It's such a great look. Now, you've learned all the main settings on your camera. See, it wasn't that hard, was it? Let's do a quick little recap. Aperture controls the focal depth. The shutter speed controls the motion. And the ISO controls the noise and acts as light compensation. Now, you can stop using that auto mode. In the next video, I'm going to go more in depth about how to take those depth of focus shots with various different lenses, like a zoom lens and a prime lens. So be sure to like this video, subscribe with the notification bell turned on so you can be notified when the next video comes out. I hope I was able to help you understand the basics of your camera. The best way to really understand how they work is to go out there and try it. Take some photos. play around with the settings. Make them super bright, make them super dark. Play around with the exposure settings or the exposure meter. That's the only way to really find out how it works and how to get that look that you're going for. Because you know what? In the end, all these photos are your photos. And when you do, you tell the story. I'm not in charge of your story. You are. So go ahead, get out there, take those photos, and share them. But when you do though, be sure to use the hashtag MisaCurious. That way I can check them out. I would love to see all of your photos. I can't wait. So what are you waiting for? Get out there and be curious.